After playing Saints Row on Xbox Series X, I was really debating if I should even spend the effort to replay it on PS5 and do a technical comparison. I mean, the game's been getting bad reviews. Not only is the gameplay bland, but technically or graphic-wise, this isn't anything special. But here we are, Xbox Series X versus PlayStation 5, because I know how much you all love the next-gen battle.
Try to keep up this time.
Yeah.
On Series X, the game takes up 59.8 gigs of space. On PS5, it's a bit lower, 53.5 gigabytes. That's a good thing because after all, the PS5 does have a slightly smaller hard drive. Let's compare the loading times. Here I'm starting the game from dashboard on both consoles and essentially smashing the select button to get into the game as fast as possible. PS5 can do that in about 33 seconds, while the Series X takes a bit longer, 41 seconds. So advantage, PlayStation 5. Series X though has a neat little feature called Quick Resume, and that works wonders for single player games like Saints Row. Quick Resume takes about 13 seconds for this game. I also looked at resuming from rest mode on both consoles. Series X has advantage with rest mode taking about 16 seconds, while PS5 takes close to 20 seconds. Visually, the game looks identical on both consoles. I did calibrate the HDR and brightness settings so that they're at the same levels. I don't want it to cause any confusion. Saints Row on both consoles has 5 different display or graphic modes. I mean, when you compare each of the 5 graphic modes side by side, there isn't a huge difference. You probably have to look really closely, zoomed in to notice much of a difference. Even the ray tracing in this game isn't the greatest and hardly noticeable. The difference though is seen in the resolution and frame rate in each mode, and we're gonna compare each of the 5 display modes on both of the consoles. First up is 1080p ultra quality mode. The resolution here is of course 1080p. This mode is meant to have the highest graphics, ray tracing and so on. The frame rate here is targeted at 60 FPS on both consoles, but it's not stable. It averages and fluctuates in the mid 50s. I'm showing the Series X only here, but the PS5 is similar. The second mode option is 1080p with high frame rate. Here there is no ray tracing, but the frame rate is 60 FPS and it's locked. On both the Series X and PS5, you're gonna get a stable 60 FPS without any drops. The third option is 1440p high quality mode. Here the resolution is bumped up to 1440p. There's still the high graphic options like ray tracing. The higher resolution does come at the cost of performance. The frame rate is now averaging lower than the 1080p mode. It drops into the low 40s for both consoles, and I do have a hard time picking a winner between the consoles because the Series X and PS5, they both are equally bad. The fourth display mode is 1440p resolution with high frame rate. Here there is no ray tracing, but the frame rate is locked to a stable 60 FPS. Both consoles again perform very similarly. I did see the same level of minor drops on both consoles, 2 to 3 drops in some rare cases. Now those minor drops are something I didn't notice much in the 1080p mode, so the 1440p high frame rate is a little bit lower performance than the 1080p mode. The last display mode is 2160p Ultra HD 4K. Here the resolution of course gets bumped up to 4K. I'm doing an overlay of the Series X and the PS5, and the resolution seems similar. Even when I zoomed in, there is no noticeable difference between the two consoles. In terms of performance, the frame rate on both consoles is horrible. It averages the mid 30s on both consoles and spends pretty much the entire time there. It would have been better if they just locked the frame rate to 30 FPS than having these high fluctuations. Now again, it's hard to pick a winner between the Series X and PS5, but from what I can see, the PS5 had a slightly lower frame rate. From what I saw, the PS5 seemed to spend a little bit more time in the low to mid 30s compared to the Series X. So a slight edge to the Series X here. The PlayStation 5 usually gets the edge on the controller side with its DualSense controller, but with Saints Row, that advantage doesn't exist. There is no advanced trigger support, and I couldn't really tell if the better haptics are used here either. Overall, Saints Row performs similar on both the Series X and the PlayStation 5. It's equally bad.
Nina, are we taking your project car?
Fuck no, I'm not risking my baby over rent. We're boosting cars from down the street.